He came back after ruining the relationship. Episode 1, The Airport Promise. In Lagos, the morning Emeka left for Europe felt like a dream wrapped in pain. The Harmattan wind was dry, but Chioma's palms were sweating. Chioma stood at Murtala Muhammad International Airport, holding his hand so tightly, it almost hurt. The chaotic sounds of the departure hall, announcements blaring, luggage wheels rolling, families crying and laughing, faded into the background. All she could focus on was him. "Baby, I swear this Europe no-go changed me," Emeka said, adjusting his small travel bag. His eyes were full of ambition, but also a hint of fear. "I'm going to hustle, come back, marry you properly. You're my future." Chioma nodded, but her eyes were already watery. She forced a smile, trying to be the supportive girlfriend everyone expected her to be, because deep down she knew airports don't just send people away, they sometimes send relationships into uncertainty. Friends around her were excited. "Your man Don finally go abroad. You're set. He go, soon send you dollars, you go join Amper there." But Chioma wasn't thinking about being set. She wasn't thinking about euros or visas. She was thinking about distance, about silence, about change. She watched him walk through the departure gates, turning back one last time to wave. As he disappeared, a cold realization settled in her chest. The Emeka that left might not be the Emeka that returns. Episode 2, The First Calls. At first, Emeka made sure Chioma never felt alone. The first few weeks were filled with excitement and novelty, video calls every night from Rome. He would show her his small shared apartment, the narrow cobblestone streets, the historic buildings. "See my life here, baby. Not easy, but I dey manage. The cold here, no be here. Oh, but we go survive." Chioma would laugh. She would pray with him. She would encourage him when he complained about the language barrier and the difficulty of finding a good job. She became his anchor, his connection to home. He even sent small money home occasionally. "Buy something nice for yourself," he would say. Everyone praised him. A responsible man, he never forget you. But slowly, something began to shift. The excitement of the new environment started to wear off, replaced by the grueling reality of immigrant life. Emeka was working long hours, doing odd jobs just to make ends meet. The calls reduced from daily to every other day to, "I'm tired, I'll call you tomorrow." Tomorrow started stretching into weeks. Chioma noticed but didn't want to be that girlfriend. She didn't want to add to his stress. So she stayed patient, making excuses for him in her head. "He's just busy," she told herself. "He's doing this for us." Episode 3, The Busy Man Phase. Emeka's tone changed. The warmth in his voice was replaced by a constant edge of exhaustion and irritation. "I've been working too much. I don't have time like before. I'm stressed. You don't understand how hard it is here." Chioma understood at first. Europe is not Nigeria. Hustle is real. She knew he was trying to build a foundation for their future, but understanding slowly turned into loneliness. She started talking to him like she was scheduling appointments. Spontaneous calls were a thing of the past. "Can we talk tonight?" she would text, hoping for a sliver of his time. "If I'm free," that reply hurt more than a breakup, because it meant she was no longer a priority, just an option, something to fit in when it was convenient. She found herself waiting by the phone, her mood dictated by whether or not he decided to call. Episode 4, The First Disappearance. One weekend, Chioma saw a tagged post on Instagram. Emeka at a lounge in Milan, laughing, drinks on the table, a woman leaning close, her hand resting casually on his shoulder. He looked happy, relaxed, a stark contrast to the stressed, exhausted man he claimed to be when talking to her. Chioma's stomach dropped. A cold sweat broke out on her forehead. She zoomed in on the picture, analyzing every detail. She called immediately. Her heart was pounding in her chest. "Who is that?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Emeka sighed loudly, a sound of pure annoyance. "Relax. It's nothing. Just friends from work." "Why are you always monitoring me?" But his voice had changed. No warmth, no reassurance, just irritation. He didn't try to comfort her or explain the situation properly. He just made her feel crazy for asking. That was the first time Keoma felt like she was disturbing his life instead of being part of it. She realized that while she was waiting for him, he was living his life. Episode 5. Respect starts fading. Arguments began slowly, creeping into their conversations like a slow poison. Choima would ask simple questions. How was your day? Who did you go out with? Emeka would respond sharply, defensive and aggressive. You don't trust me. You're too insecure. You're always complaining. I'm out here hustling and you're stressing me with unnecessary things. But what Keoma didn't understand was this. She wasn't becoming insecure. She was reacting to emotional distance. When someone pulls away, it's natural to try and pull them back. But her attempts to connect were met with hostility. Still, she apologized more than she should have. I'm sorry, I just miss you, she would say, swallowing her pride. Because love trains women to think they are the problem when things change. She convinced herself that if she was just more understanding, more patient, less demanding, things would go back to how they were. Episode 6. The emotional neglect stage. Calls became shorter, 5 minutes, then 3, then just a quick check-in. Voice notes became dry. Gone were the long, affectionate messages. Now it was just quick updates. Texts became delayed. Hours would pass before he replied, sometimes even a full day. Then dry replies like, okay, I'm fine, busy. Choma started feeling like she was talking to a stranger wearing Emeka's name. The man she fell in love with was gone, replaced by this cold, distant version. She stopped sharing her day. She stopped telling him about her promotion at work, about the funny thing that happened at the market, about her fears and dreams, because there was no one emotionally present to receive it. Sharing felt like throwing words into a void. It was easier to just stay silent. Episode 7. The break that wasn't a break. One night, Emeka said it casually, as if he was discussing the weather. I think we should take a break. Chioma froze. The words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. A break from what exactly? She asked, her voice trembling. You're too emotional. I need space to focus. I can't deal with relationship drama right now. Space. That word destroyed her, because space is what people request when they are already halfway gone. It's a coward's way of ending things without taking responsibility. Chioma begged for clarity. Are we breaking up? Just tell me the truth. Emeka was calm. Too calm. I didn't say that. I just said I need space. Don't overreact. And that calmness hurt more than shouting. It showed how little he cared. He was completely detached from her pain. Episode 8. Life in Europe without attachment. While Keoma was crying in Lagos, unable to eat or sleep, Emeka was adjusting to freedom in Rome. No constant check-ins, no emotional responsibility, no accountability. He felt a sense of relief. He started going out more, exploring the city, meeting new people, enjoying the attention of women who didn't know his history, who didn't expect anything from him. At first, he told himself, I still love her. I just need space. I'll get back to her when I'm ready. But over time, comfort replaced commitment. It was easier to be single, it was easier not to have to answer to anyone, and silence replaced effort. The days turned into weeks, and he didn't reach out. He convinced himself that she was probably fine, that she needed the space too. Episode 9, the relationship becomes memory. Chioma tried to hold on. She couldn't accept that it was over just like that. She sent long messages, pouring her heart out, explaining how much she loved him and how willing she was to wait. Emeka replied with short sentences. I hear you. Thanks. She called, he didn't pick. When he finally did, he sounded like he was doing her a favor. I'm really busy, Keoma. Make it quick. That was when Chioma realized something painful. She was no longer in a relationship. She was in a memory. Emeka visited occasionally. She was holding on to a ghost. The reality was that he had moved on, even if he hadn't officially said the words. Episode 10. The final ending without closure. One evening, Keoma decided she couldn't take the limbo anymore. She needed an answer. She asked directly, are we still together or not? I need to know. Emeka paused. The silence stretched on for what felt like an eternity, then said, I don't know anymore. That sentence ended everything, not because of anger, but because confusion is also an answer. If he didn't know if he wanted to be with her, then he didn't want to be with her. Love is a choice, and he was choosing not to make it. Kyoma cried quietly that night in Lagos. Not loudly, just silently accepting that someone she loved was already gone emotionally. The hope that had been keeping her going finally died. Episode 11, Aftermath, in Nigeria. Weeks passed. The pain was a dull ache that never really went away. Chioma stopped eating well. She lost weight, stopped replying quickly to messages from friends and family, stopped smiling easily. The light in her eyes had dimmed. Her friends noticed. What happened between you and Emeka? You guys haven't posted each other in a while. But she didn't know how to explain something that ended slowly. It wasn't a dramatic breakup. There was no big fight, no cheating scandal that she knew of. It ended in hundreds of small disappointments. In unreturned calls, in dry texts, in emotional withdrawal. How do you explain that to people who only saw the grand romantic gestures? Episode 12, Rebuilding Alone. Chioma slowly began rebuilding herself. It was hard, but she had no other choice. She started a small business in Abuja, selling clothes online. At first, it was just to distract herself, to have something to focus on other than her broken heart. Then it became survival. She needed the money. Then it became independence. She realized she was capable of building something on her own. She didn't need a man to set her. She stopped checking Emeka's social media. She blocked him, not out of spite, but out of self-preservation. Not because she was strong, but because she was tired. Tired of hurting, tired of hoping, tired of letting him control her emotions from thousands of miles away. Episode 13, Emeka's reality check. In Europe, Emeka started feeling something strange. The initial thrill of freedom had worn off. Freedom didn't feel exciting anymore, it felt empty. New conversations felt shallow. The women he met were fun, but they didn't know him. They didn't know his struggles, his dreams, his fears. No one knew him deeply. No one checked on him like Chioma did. No one prayed for him. No one genuinely cared if he had eaten or if he was okay, but pride kept him from admitting it. He was the abroad guy. He was supposed to be living the dream, so he continued pretending he was fine, posting pictures of his best life on Instagram until silence became louder than distraction. He found himself sitting in his apartment, surrounded by people, yet feeling completely alone. He realized what he had lost. He realized what he had lost. Episode 14, The Return Message. One night, months later, Chioma's phone buzzed. She was busy packing orders for her business. She glanced at the screen. Hi, can we talk? Emeka? Chioma stared at the message for a long time. Her heart didn't race. Her hands didn't shake. No panic. No excitement. Just calm reflection. Because pain had already taught her something important. Not every return is love. Sometimes it is regret. Sometimes it's loneliness. Sometimes it's just someone realizing that the grass wasn't greener on the other side. But it wasn't love. Love wouldn't have left her in the dark for months. Episode 15. He came back too late. Emeka returned to Nigeria eventually for a visit. He looked different, more polished, but also more tired. He wanted to fix things. He asked to meet her, and she agreed, mostly out of curiosity. I made mistakes, he said, sitting across from her in a quiet cafe. I was overwhelmed. I lost focus. I miss you. Chioma listened quietly. She looked at him, really looked at him, and realized she didn't feel anything anymore. The love was gone, burned out by his neglect. Then she replied, You didn't lose me when you left. You lost me when you stopped choosing me while I was still staying. You lost me when you made me feel like a burden for loving you. Emeka had no response, because that was the truth. He couldn't argue with it. Chioma wasn't angry anymore. She was done, not bitter. Just finished healing. She had moved on, and there was no place for him in her new life. Episode 16, The Closure He Didn't Expect. Emeka tried again. He sent flowers. He called her friends, explaining, apologizing, promising change. I'm ready now, he said. I want to marry you. But Chioma shook her head. I don't hate you, Emeka. I just don't have space for what broke me slowly. I can't trust you with my heart again. For the first time, Emeka understood something painful. Coming back doesn't undo emotional abandonment. You can't just pick up where you left off after you've shattered someone's trust. Actions have consequences. Episode 17, Peace After Pain. Months later, Keoma was different, lighter, calmer, stronger. Her business was thriving. She had a new circle of supportive friends. She still lived in Nigeria, still worked, still laughed, but now she no longer confused love with suffering. She knew her worth, she knew what she deserved, and she wasn't willing to settle for less. And Emeka? He went back to Europe. He became a lesson she no longer cried about. Just a memory she outgrew. A chapter in her life that was finally closed. Lessons from the story. Number 1. Distance doesn't justify emotional neglect. Physical distance is hard, but emotional distance is a choice. If someone truly cares, they will make the effort to stay connected, regardless of the miles between you. Number 2. Love dies slowly when effort disappears. Relationships require constant nurturing. When one person stops trying, the love slowly starves to death. It's not always a sudden explosion. Often, it's a quiet fading away. Number 3. Confusion is often a form of rejection. If someone is confused about whether they want to be with you, they are telling you they don't want to be with you enough to be sure. Don't wait around for someone to figure out your worth. Number 4. You cannot return to someone you emotionally abandoned. You can't expect someone to wait for you while you figure yourself out, especially if you treated them poorly in the process. Trust, once broken, is incredibly hard to rebuild. Number 5. Healing happens when you stop waiting for closure from the wrong person. True closure comes from within. It comes from accepting the reality of the situation, learning the lessons, and choosing to move forward. You don't need an apology to heal. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe. Someone out there needs to hear this today. Thank you for watching.